All right, Meghan, Ottolini and Justin Turpin of WEEI and Odyssey coming to you from TD Garden after the 91-90 loss by the Celtics, going down 0-2 against the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Here at TD Garden, and Turp, once again, it was a tale of letting go of a 20-point lead. They were up 73-53 in the third quarter and then got outshot. Well, they got outscored 30-17 in the fourth quarter by the New York Knicks. So what is your concern level right now, and what do you make of what's going wrong with the Celtics' composure at the ends of these games?
Yeah, you got to be pretty concerned, right? It's the first team in NBA history to blow two 20-point leads in the same postseason since the play-by-play era. That's not good company that you expect this team to be in. And they just last year, and you don't want to live in the past, but it's the same team, so like it is fair to reference it. Last year, they just made all the plays that need to be made down the stretch. And it's just, they're not happening this year. It's not happening that way. And it just feels like they're not playing their brand of basketball. They're getting away from what builds them that lead, and they're just settling for attempting to try to get these kill shots, and it's just not working.
I agree. I think in the fourth quarter, what was so frustrating was towards the end, you get a lot of action on the glass, and in the first half, they were so dominant on the boards, especially Jayson Tatum, but there was that stretch there when the Knicks started to rally back off 7 turnovers by the Celtics. That went directly into 7 points off those turnovers for the Knicks, and at the same time, when you start the fourth quarter, the Celtics are putting these shots up, and it's just these one and done shots where then it rolls over to the other side in the way that it's kind of a turnover in itself, empty possessions that breathe life back into the Knicks, who are a good offensive team on the other side. It's like, this is not the Orlando Magic anymore, guys.
I think that's the biggest thing, is you can get away with this with the Orlando Magic. And there were times that the Celtics went scoreless against the Magic, but it didn't matter because Orlando didn't have the firepower to punch back. New York does. And I was looking into the numbers after Boston built the 20-point lead. They shot 5 of 28 from the field after that and 2 of 12 from deep. And they had 6 turnovers. They had more turnovers in like a 15-minute span than they had made field goals. That's just not winning basketball.
So you talk about not wanting to live in the past. For me, that started conjuring up 2 different things. One, when I was watching the turnovers, especially unfortunately 3 lost balls from Jaylen Brown, those are live ball turnovers. I'm thinking, oh my God, it's like Jaylen Brown from the 2022 finals against the Golden State Warriors. And I really just feel like these guys individually have grown up so much past that. So tough to see that with the pressure that the Knicks were putting on him. But then on top of that, I was thinking back to when's the last time that the Celtics were down this bad in a series to start the series? And you have to go all the way back to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2023 against Jimmy Butler's Miami Heat. And so you have a couple guys on this team at the core who have had their backs up against the wall and had to respond and dig out of it. But even then, obviously that season ended prematurely. And for defending champs, unfortunately, most recently, this is what we've seen with NBA defending champs. I'm not saying in any way that it's over for the Celtics, but they haven't been able to get out of the second round, and you're seeing how difficult it is.
I was thinking the same thing when you said that, like, the last 5 NBA champions haven't made out of the second round. It's hard not to think about that when you're in this situation. And the Celtics are well aware of that. Like, they are well aware of the history. Joe Mazzulla's talked about it in various press conferences, that they look at past history and how they can apply it. So that's a statistic that they're fairly well aware of. And, you know, looks like they got a lot of work to do to turn it around.
On the upside, the Celtics were one of the best road teams. Of course, we know that they were the road dogs with the barking led by Luke Cornett and everybody else through the regular season. So there is that upside where I do think that this team has it in them to go to MSG over the weekend and tie it up if they get everything right. One major area of concern for me going forward, aside from a lot of what we saw in this game, of course, is Kristaps Porzingis. He's kind of this dark cloud hanging over the team because of his health status. We really don't know what's going on with him. Okay, like he vanishes in the middle of in game 1, in the middle of the second quarter, comes back out at halftime, is trying to warm up, move around, and then we never see him again. Then he's available, doesn't start tonight, gets in, doesn't do much, looks pretty labored. Comes back in the second half, again, doesn't really look right, at least gets a catch and shoot 3 that he makes and 1 or 2 other plays. But what do you make of him, and is he really completely necessary for them to get back into the series?
Oh, he's definitely necessary. When you look at that 8-minute stretch in the fourth quarter that they couldn't score, over the last 2 years, where have they gone during those stretches? They get it to Porzingis at the nail, right at the free throw line, and let him just get the offense back on track. Hell, that's why they went out and got him. Remember, to bust those zones, that's why they went out and got him after losing to Miami. Because of his own defense, they'd seen enough. They wanted a guy that can just crack any defense, that can get this offense on track, and you're missing that severely. Again, you got away with a little bit against Orlando. You're not going to do it against the Knicks when they have this type of firepower. So he's huge, and it was kind of a discussion that was pretty frequent throughout the season. I think more so in the talk radio landscape that do they need Kristaps Porzingis to win it all again? And the answer is a firm yes. And you're seeing how much they miss him in this series, because that's just their guy that gets them right back on track offensively, and they've been missing that dearly.
Jayson Tatum had a very slim 2 points in terms of his offensive production in the first half. As I said, I was encouraged by his defense and the impact he was able to make on the glass, on the boards, but what do you think of who he's been in the series thus far?
Yeah, they need him to be better. You need your best players to be at their best in these moments, and he just hasn't been. And it's funny because I think consensusly going into this series, everyone thought that was going to be the number one talking point. That was going to be the guy.
3 games that he had coming out of Orlando were fantastic.
And the 4 in the regular season against New York. He averaged 30 against this team and shot 50%, whatever it was, 40% from 3, like some ridiculous numbers. Everyone thought this was going to be a good matchup for him. Same with Porzingis. It was another one that he averaged 24.5 against them. Everyone thought this was going to kind of be a series for them to get going and for Tatum to keep it going, and it just hasn't been the case. But obviously we know, it's no secret, it's been like this for years. This team goes as Tatum goes. And when he's scoring like this and he's not really being efficient on the offensive end, he's passing up good looks. It felt like tonight he was in his own head. He had plenty of good looks that he was passing up, and Joe Mazzulla mentioned that post-game, and maybe that's a little bit to do with game 1. I know he was hard on himself, saying that at times he took shots that he shouldn't have and should have gotten downhill, but they need him to be aggressive. This team goes as he does, and so far that's why they're behind 0-2.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't get to hear from Jayson Tatum post-game because there was, I think, a fire somewhere in the building. That's what the rumors are that we're hearing around here. And so we were evacuated, and then our media availability was over. But I almost called you Tatum. Terp, what we know is going to be a big subject of debate, especially among our beloved sports radio friends tomorrow, is going to be whether or not Joe Mazzulla should have called a timeout with 12.7 seconds left. This was right after Jayson Tatum takes it, just jams it down the Knicks' throat. He just has a slam dunk that everybody who has just been grousing over 3-pointers had to absolutely love, because it was like 1993 again. And Mazzulla's explanation post-game, partially of why he didn't call that, was because of the defensive look that he saw and thinking that Tatum was going to do something very similar. Was that a satisfying answer for you? And do you think that there's any, I guess, reason to be upset about that timeout having not been taken?
I didn't have a problem in the moment with them not taking the timeout. Obviously, you knew there was a defender in Jalen Brunson on the floor that you can target. So I didn't have a problem with that. They had like 12 seconds left, so they had plenty of time to get something up the floor and get into some sort of action, some sort of set, some sort of play, whatever they wanted to do there. I had more, like you said, the reasoning, right? You thought that was going to be the play. You only had one play. And they had time. It felt like Jayson Tatum was dribbling around down the paint for eternity. It felt like it was forever. Like, at that point, you call a timeout. You probably still have 4 or 5 seconds. Again, I haven't gone back and looked at it yet, but you probably have 4 or 5 seconds that you can call a timeout and then you draw something up. Because there was clearly nothing developing.
Right.
And Joe said in the past that one of the only shots you're getting in that kind of scenario is a contested 3 or a fadeaway. So maybe he was just living with the results there, but you call a timeout there. You can't take the timeout into game 3. So yeah, I would have taken the timeout once you saw something not developing. Letting them play through it and letting them go up the floor against a non-set defense, I like. But again, when you see something not developing, you call a timeout.
Yeah, or at least, I know that they don't really run plays the way that maybe Celtics teams in the past have, but
in those scenarios, I think they would, right?
You need a second action out of that. It can't just be Tatum take it to the hoop. Otherwise, what are we doing? Anybody can draw that up. I loved it the time before, but there needs to be some kind of second action. If the entire defense is collapsing on Tatum in the paint, where's the outlet? Where's the next look? How do you develop that if you're not going to call the timeout?
Also, were they going to get 2 free runs at the rim in back-to-back possessions in a clutch game? Like again, like he's talked about it in the past that the only shot you're getting, like I said, is a fadeaway or a contested three. You think you're going to get 2 uncontested layups and that it lead to a dunk? It just wasn't going to happen. So maybe he's actually just not showing his cards and just kind of saying that to appease and just give an answer. But you got to call a timeout there when you see nothing's developing.
Possible. Very easy for us to second guess it, hours
Hindsight's
after the
20/20,
fact.
they say.
But unfortunately, that's where the Celtics stand. They're not alone. The Cavs, who are also favored in their series against the Pacers, they went down 2 at home, so they're out on the road again. If you're a Celtics fan, hopefully those road dogs show up and they're able to tie it up at MSG.
How do you think Adam Silver feels right now? Seeing Boston and Cleveland down 0-2.
Well,
Oklahoma City, they're playing as we're recording, so we don't really know them, but they're down 0-1. He's looking at like a possible New York and Indy Eastern Conference Finals.
I think that I haven't seen the numbers, the rating numbers, but I do feel like there has been such positive reaction to these early rounds of the NBA playoffs because they've been so entertaining that he should be feeling okay overall. We're very, very early into this series, so of course you don't want to be down 0-2, especially when you've given up both games at home, but there's still a lot of basketball to be played between these teams.
Right, and Jaylen Brown said it after the game. If he had to select any group to go out and try to do this, it's this group. And I think
he doesn't really have a choice.
He doesn't really have a choice, right. But I also think there's some truth to that. Like, I think a lot of people feel the same way. We saw this team, again, you don't want to live in the past, but what this team, even they did this year, they've proven time and time again that they are one of the greatest teams assembled, so the talent-wise. So yeah, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about them.
Turp, have they dropped 3 straight in the regular season this year?
No, their longest, so the last time they dropped 3 straight was that series you were talking about, Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. They haven't done it since then.
All right, well, hopefully it won't happen this weekend. You'll be down there in New York,
I will.
So you can follow all of your coverage. Where can they find you on the socials, Turp?
On Instagram at Justin.Turpin and on Twitter at JustinM.Turpin. I know, so see, I did Instagram again first?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I'm at MegaWaffles22 and at Meghan_Ottolini on Twitter. And until then, well, you can find all of our coverage at weei.com or right here on the YouTube channel.